This is Infection, the survival podcast, recorded live on Tuesday, February 18th, 2020, episode 266. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another episode of Infection, the survival podcast. Infection is your source for the latest information on survival video games. My name is Nick Craig. You can follow me on Twitter at Nicholas M. Craig. Of course, you can visit our website. It's infectionpodcast.com. If you're interested in some tips, now we got tip of the week, and that's all fine and dandy, but if you're interested in some high-quality IT tips, dudeinit.com. I haven't posted an article in a while, but we'll be back. Joining me. Hi, Brian. How are you? I screwed up the first intro, and now I'm off. I'm off my. For the next 2 hours, I'm shook, as they say.
It'll make it a wonderful show, I'm sure.
Yes.
Well, if you want to find me at Voicey Computer on Twitter, of course, you can check out my blog, biteoftech.com, and make sure you go to our website, infectionpodcast.com. You notice on the right-hand side there, we've got a little button there that says join our server on Discord. And if you do that, you can submit news throughout the week. You can participate in the games that we're playing throughout the week, and just kind of hang out in whatever game you happen to be playing. You can find other people, maybe they'll join you. It's a free app. They have a mobile, desktop, web-based, very easy to use. Also, if you join the Steam group, you get a notification before the live show starts. So if you happen to be there at your computer, you can just join that group on your Steam client and get a little notice and participate in the game giveaways, participate in the chat during the live show. Also, we have our YouTube, Mixer, and Twitch links there. And then on the lower right-hand side, we have all of our different podcast forms. So if you want to listen to us, maybe you're driving or at work, whatever platform device you're using, we have a link for that. Also, show notes now for 266 episodes of the show. So if there's something maybe you're listening and we show a video or talk about something and show a visual, there you can go ahead and check out those show notes after the show is done, and we'll have that up there for you.
I want to point something out. It's on the website, but we've never mentioned it. We are actually on Spotify, which I don't know how Brian managed to get us on Spotify because I haven't. They didn't respond to me.
Hey.
But we're on Spotify. So if you use which like literally everybody does, you can download. And actually, I read an article today about how Spotify's gatekeeping podcasting. They're gonna take it over. So
nice.
You can search for Infection. I literally search for Infection Pod, and we're the first result on there. And you can click it and listen to the whole. It's weird to see it in minutes. 127-minute episode of Infection the podcast. So check it out on Spotify if you're looking for a podcatcher.
Nice.
Sorry.
Well, no, you're fine. And then on the left-hand side there, you have a Support Us tab. If you want to click that, you can support us through Amazon. So amazon.infectionpodcast.com. You can support us through Humble Bundle if you're going to be doing some of the things there. Humble.infectionpodcast.com. And of course, you can always give us your Twitch Prime subs, which people do throughout the week and have for the last couple of years. And we really appreciate that because that pays for our yearly trip that we do. So we really appreciate the people that are very, very vigilant about making sure every month they do that sub. Speaking of, thank you, Green Man. Green Man has renewed his sub. So that's
you want to hear something? You want to hear something, Brian? Set 25 months in a row.
Bingo,
Mr.
boom,
Green Man Cartoons. Oh, here we go. And here's a Firebomb who says, "You got me to buy Escape from Tarkov and expect me to stop playing it to watch the live show. The nerve." I mean, we do. You can play the game literally any other time, so it's not a big problem. Thank you, Firebomb. We appreciate that.
Bingo, boom,
oh, and our friend Judd hitting us up with the resubscription as well. So, thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate it very much. It means it may not seem like a big thing. You just click resubscribe. You would not believe last year in Seattle the burden that was lifted off of our shoulder because we were able to book our room early or our house early and not get destroyed by the flex pricing around events. And thank you, Judd, for your $3.90. I'm not sure what the significance of that number is, but I appreciate it very much. Thank you. We appreciate it. So,
yes.
Okay. So I need to say a couple of things here on the program. I've been waiting all week to talk about these things. I'm sorry for the people that listen to this podcast that are already playing Escape from Tarkov. Because I'm just going to say it right now. If you are, I'll put a timestamp in the YouTube thing. If you are a Tarkov, if you've been on the train for 2 years, I'm sorry, because what you're going to hear over the next couple of weeks is going to be very, a lot of it is unpolished opinions, some molded opinions that we're still working on, building up, and it's the newest, greatest thing, but it's been out. You've been playing it for 2 years, so I'm just gonna say that up front. I apologize. We did the same thing with Rust when we kind of got into that, and I have a feeling Tarkov's going to be a similar thing. So a quick little PSA for that. Brian, you did it.
Yes,
you did it.
I did. What did I do?
You bought the game.
Oh yeah, I did.
I mean,
I was like, I accomplished something great.
How much slower of a softball do I have to lob at you for you to hit? Brian,
we're talking about that was so wonderful.
What else did you think you did? What else did you? Okay, here's the real question. What else did you do this week, Brian, besides Tarkov? Because there's got to be something else.
I don't know. I can't remember. I played 4 hockey games. How about that?
Did you win?
Actually, I won quite a few of them this week.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
thank you.
Better week than last week.
Excellent. All right, so but you actually bought Escape from Tarkov, which is what I was teeing you up for, and you fucked me. So I appreciate that. What is your first opinion? What are you thinking?
All right, so having come into it and just kind of thinking of it as like, oh man, that game you had to move, like you just stare at your inventory screen for a long time, right? That was my initial thoughts of just seeing people play it and be like, eh. But the game itself, I think, especially in a group, I don't know how much I would play it solo, but I think when we go in there, like last night, we went in as a group, and that was very, very fun. Mm-hmm. And I find myself staring at that stupid inventory for a long time, trying to figure out how I can fit one more thing in one more place. Mm-hmm. And so, but it is a fun game, and it's one that I think reminds me a little bit of some of a game with time sinks that I've talked about time sinks quite a bit, and how I think it's so important for the longevity of a game. I think that this game has done an incredible job with time sinks, not just with I'm going to micromanage my inventory. That's kind of the surface time sinks, but all of the things of the unlocks that they kind of put you through to unlock your living area and the different technologies and all that. I know they tried to do that with the Walking Dead game that, came out and kind of failed. They had that base you could upgrade. I think with this one, that being that they make you play and they make you do all these things to kind of slowly unlock that over time, I think it makes this type of a game have a longevity, because there will be people that, when you put that carrot out there, and we talked about Ark and how they've done a good job of it. I think with this one, I don't know, since I'm only kind of just started on that trek of unlocking and figuring these out, but it seems like it's a pretty long, like you don't unlock that in a week or 2 weeks. You don't unlock all the options. Seems like it's a pretty big trek to be able to do that. So I think they did a good job. The gameplay is better than what I expected as far as the gunplay. The movement mechanics are a little bit weird. As far as responsiveness, just not what I'm used to. I mean, it feels kind of like PUBG did in the early days, of like when you go to stop, like it does this weird kind of stutter thing. But the gunplay is good. Like, we've had a good time of just playing against people, and I've not felt like there's been any ridiculous, like we've gotten killed and had some good gunfights, and we never came out of it truly raging, I don't think. And we were like, oh man, I just lost that gear, like that kind of a rage.
Yeah.
But not like, oh, the stupid thing glitched out and I couldn't do this and I couldn't do that. Like, I haven't had those experiences. It was more of that guy just outplayed us.
I can't give credit to the right person because I don't remember who said it. But somebody said this to me either yesterday or over the weekend. Their response was, Tarkov is like the raid in H1Z1 that you would have once a week. Yeah. Where you would have this crazy intense gun battle that was heart racing and like nose practically touching the screen. You're so into it, sweaty palm, like the raid that you would have once a week. Arc, the big raids that you'd plan out. That is when you are in a game of Tarkov, that's what it's like almost the entire time, which is, I never really thought about it like that. But, well, I mentioned last week how the game is incredibly stimulating. Being an enthusiast, Brian, in immersion, I think kind of immersion and stimulation kind of go one and the same. Did I overblow the stimulation of the game, or did you feel it?
No, and I think especially like, for instance, one of the last ones that I played last night was Factory. Was that what it was called?
Mm-hmm.
And just the intensity of, all right, you got these guys coming in from all these different doors. Like we're covering, we're trying to make it to the exit. And like, I think it was Saul got one shot. I'm still kind of covering as you guys are upstairs, kind of dealing with something. And then I get one shot downstairs. It's just that kind of adrenaline of, oh man, we were so close. Like
it's every time.
Yeah. And so it's I think they did a really good job. And I don't know, I was pleasantly surprised with the game overall. Now, the longevity, I don't think the longevity is if there's not longevity to it for us, it's not because the game is bad. We just don't always get into it. It'd be like, this is kind of like WoW in a way. Like there's a lot to do, and you got to dedicate a certain amount of time to it to really be good. But I could see this being one of the games that we binge on, kind of like we do 7 Days to Die, we do Ark, we binge on for periods of time. And I think this is one of those that could be put into that category.
Yeah. Now they do what they do wipes, and I believe there's a wipe within the next month or two. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I believe there's a wipe in the next month or two. And Brian, it's a complete wipe. You lose every single item. You lose all of your
progress of the buildings and
everything. No, I think you keep your hideout. I'm not sure. June. I thought it was in the next 2 months. Okay, I'm way off. So, but it's a complete wipe. Like there's no like, oh, I'm going to save these couple of items. So it's pretty significant when they do that. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything to complain about. Now, to be fair, it is a $50-something game after you get it. So there is a level of completeness and gameplay and polishedness that I expect for $50-something. So, let's this game's not the Messiah. It's not some $5 gem in the rough. I mean, you're talking about less than $10 away from the price of a Call of Duty or a Red Dead Redemption or a Battlefield, a BioShock, a Fallout, all these huge titles. So let's not, it's super important. I just want to, this game is not some undone thing before. I mean, it's a $50 game, and they've done really well with it. In terms of early access games, Brian, I would say it's got to easily be in the top 10, maybe the top 5 in terms of its status in early access. Now, it has been out for almost 2 years. I know we're just coming onto the scene, and a lot of other people are as well. That big Twitch event that they did probably 2 months ago at this point, really blew up the game in terms of player count. So, as we're so new to it, and actually that's wrong. 3.5 years the game's been out. So, it's an early access game, but it's not brand new. This is not a game that was announced last year. It's been out for a while. And there are still some issues. But I would say if you're willing to, and I think I said this last week, if you're willing to devote the time, I read Phantom's letter last week, his note that he sent me. If you're willing to devote the time, I think it's a no-brainer. If you're leery about the time, it's probably a waste of money.
Yeah, because I mean, it's definitely one that you could put some time into.
Well, but you don't have to. You don't have to play like an Ark though. In the regards of your we're not going to do it again. We talked about it last week. There's thousands of videos on what Tarkov is like. If you're really interested, we've got a channel in our Discord called Tarkov. If you don't have the game, you're muted by default, so that because the game is so kind of intense and sounds are so important, we're trying to mitigate conversation. But there's almost always somebody streaming inside of Discord, so you can click on their name, it will join into the channel, you can hear us talking, and you can watch the gameplay. That's how I would, if you're interested, I think that's what you should do. There's plenty of YouTubers that have done videos as well. Watch a stream or something. It is funny though, Brian. I was talking about this with a couple of the guys yesterday. It's pretty crazy to see even a group, our size, which is a couple hundred people in our Discord, what kind of buying power we have. We went earlier this week. We had 2 or 3 people that own the game. And now it's got to be encroaching on a dozen. You're talking about $50 a title, $50 a copy on average. I mean, our little group's got a little, decent amount of buying power, which is cool to see. So it's now, and my comment to that was, and now you wonder why a company like EA or Activision will pay a streamer hundreds of thousands of dollars to stream a game. Makes perfect sense. If our little community can spend a couple $100 with Tarkov, imagine what Summit or Lyric or Dr. Disrespect with hundreds of thousands of concurrent viewers can do. I mean, it's a no-brainer. You wonder why Ninja's getting $500,000 sponsorship deals. Look at the player count. Or look at the buying power in a group. So that was kind of an eye-opening experience for me. I don't ever remember us having everybody buying it in such a short period of time like this. On not a new release, it is, because the game is not new. That's part of it. Is everybody kind of decided?
We had like Conan.
But Conan was new.
And it was new. But old games. Yeah, it's always kind of hit and miss.
Yeah, exactly. And no, you're right. We did have we sold probably a dozen or so copies, and maybe more of Conan. Conan was a great game. So that's kind of Tarkov. Now I have a couple things for you here, Brian. There was a patch we'll talk about in a second. I want to give a shout out again to you, Phantom and Kramit, for kind of being the adults in the group and leading all of us plebs through stupid questions and killing each other and killing them and the whole process. So shout out to them for being more than patient with us. But now that you've played the game a little bit, we had a message from our friend Musty, and the question he posed to me was, do you think that Tarkov, with its new popularity, will bring in a whole new genre of games? This idea of almost all instanced loot and not instant loot, instanced maps and gameplay, and a kind of a stale loot system, or static loot system, I guess you'd call it. What are your thoughts?
I think there's aspects of it that may take off. I think you'll see other games start to pull maybe little pieces that they view as successful or they view as kind of a draw to Tarkov. Because one thing you maybe will see in a game, even like a Call of Duty game, like some sort of a base or something where they're letting you're kind of building up something. I mean, Call of Duty, really, they just give you skins to guns and things, and different weapons. But, you'll have games where you can kind of build up your own little private area and have your own little thing. But usually the persistent storage isn't as common. Like we know a few games that will do persistent storage. I think that I think that most of them do not do persistent storage, and I think that could be something that takes off a little bit more of having you actually earn something, because the kick, it says up to this point, the kick has been so much about skins, which really are pointless. Now it keeps the game even, but it doesn't help you in any way. And you may find people that kind of like the idea of, oh, the more I play, the more advantage I have. I mean, that kind of went away for a while. Everything had to be totally even. Everyone had to be exactly the same. Some games will unlock abilities and things like that, but I think this, if anything, this maybe will unlock the concept of the more I play, just like in the old days of WoW. They got away from that too. The more I play, the better advantage I have. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. When you're a casual player, it's a bad thing. But this may be, if anything, ushering in a little more of an age of less casual games, which we've had a ton of casual games up to this point in the last couple of years. So I think that would be one thing that may change, is people adapting to what we kind of started. I mean, the games that we started on weren't very casual. H1Z1 wasn't casual at the time.
No.
So I think that if anything, this will be just ushering back into that, because ever since H1Z1, everything kind of went very non-casual, or became casual. I'm sorry, for up until now, which is fine to a point.
I'm not. So the way it was kind of described to me originally, it didn't really hit until somebody actually explained it to me, and kind of broke it down for what works for me. Everybody kind of processes things a different way, and once I was able to ask questions that I wanted to, I got a good answer. I do think that this idea of a semi-persistent loot system. I mean, here's the thing. What's the Tom Clancy game that we played a couple years ago? Come on, the one in the city.
Division.
Yes, the Division had somewhat of a similar mode with what was that city area you'd go into? And you do like that kind of the raid thing, like the Dark Zone or something like that.
Yeah, whatever zone. I think it was Dark Zone.
The Dark Zone. So it had something that is not that far off from what this is, right? You would go into the Dark Zone with some loot, and then you could run around for a while, get some more, and then run out. That was kind of that. Mm-hmm. That was that system, and you were safe outside of the Dark Zone. So, I'm just trying to put everything in perspective here. This game is not the first thing. This is not the first game to do any of these things. It's just the first one that seems to be connecting with a lot of people. While the Division was good, I don't think it really grabbed people like a game like this does. Part of it because the launch was kind of crappy. But the other thing I noted this past week, Brian, and you kind of mentioned it, was in a game like H1Z1 or a game like Ark, any item you run by, you collect, just because there's no reason not to. It's like what, a couple pieces of wood to build another chest. You can just put another chest down, fill that with shit you don't need, and put another chest down and fill it. Just do that. The repetition is incredible. That's why, like in H1Z1, you end up with cases and cases and cases of ARs that nobody would ever use. You would just put them in a case. Yeah. Tarkov is the complete opposite. You very frequently, I don't mind dying with certain things because I do not have room to keep them. And that's something that I haven't really experienced before. In all of the survival games I've played, I've always been, you've always been the loot hoarder. Grab as much as you can, fill up your inventory completely, dump it all in a chest, run out and do it again. That's what we did in H1Z1 for years. Loot runs, dump it all, die, spawn, rip your shirt off, turn it into a bow and arrow, and do it all over again. Day after day after day. This game is the complete polar opposite, and it's interesting. Very interesting.
And it'll be interesting to see. I mean, it's been out for a little while, but it'll be interesting to see if it continues to pick up. And, we were kind of wondering why people are all of a sudden watching it. And that may be something that doesn't stick around. But as far as playing it, it'll be interesting to see if it continues to grow and becomes one of the main games that people play.
Yeah, we talked about the BR killer. I'm not sure. I don't think anybody can say this is the BR killer. But if there was a game to kind of really shake the BR market, especially the PUBG market, which is, I would consider the hardcore battle royale, it's got to be the most active player one outside of Fortnite by a long shot. If there's something to disturb the PUBG status quo, I would think it might be Tarkov. Ducky is saying a lot of the longtime PUBG players are going to Tarkov. It's not surprising. It's a new game. For a lot of people, it is a new game. I know it's been out for 3 years, and again, I apologize for the people that have been on this bandwagon. But for a lot of people, this is a brand new game. This game might as well have come out yesterday. For, I think, a lot of people. It's so... Everybody's heard about it. I don't think a lot of people have played it.
Yeah.
So,
there
you go.
We'll see. I mean, time will tell, and we'll see if people continue to play it. We'll see how our community goes. I mean, if our community keeps playing it, I know people have been having a blast up until this point.
Yes, it's a good game. Again, if you are if you're interested in the game, I'd highly recommend you come check out our Discord. There's a lot of people playing, and you can hang out in the channel, watch, and do all that fun stuff. So check it out. Very
good. All right. Do you have a preference where we start?
No. What sounds good for you?
How about we get some epic news out of the way here?
You mean some cash money? Yeah, that's fine.
Yes. Yeah.
Welcome
to our sponsors.
Brought to you by
by Epic. Yes. There was a keynote that Tim Sweeney, CEO of Epic, gave in it, and I wanted to kind of get your opinion on this. He condemns loot boxes. And he also made a statement that he feels that game companies, which, hey, I think I know your opinion on this, game companies should divorce themselves from politics. And that's just something that we've been pretty adamant about. And we've discussed this topic of, and really H1Z1 and the whole Daybreak, Sony, whatever, just us following the news early on in our podcast and just having to put up with all of their political posts constantly, nonstop. I mean, it just kind of drove us crazy. Yeah. But this is something where, I mean, if you really look at it, has there been a big thing where Epic has been in a big political debate? And I think they do a pretty good job of staying pretty much out of the politics and staying out of that whole conversation.
Yeah. I mean, I think, and Brian, I'm going to be honest with you, this is something I'm really proud of that we've done. Brian and I are both very politically active and have very strong political opinions. And while it may seep out every now and then, I think over the last 5 years, Brian, I'm going to toot our own horn here. We have absolutely done everything in our power to keep politics out of this, because it's just not necessary. Who cares? Yeah. We're playing Escape from Tarkov together. I don't care who you want the president to be. Now, in our Discord, it's a little bit different. That's a whole nother story. And you're free to join in that discussion, or you're free not to. But on this podcast for the last 5 years, we do not talk about, oh, Trump did this, or oh, Obama did this, or oh, Bernie did. It's not relevant, and frankly, I don't think anybody cares. If you want to talk politics, there's political podcasts. I actually do one. Like, you can listen to the radio, you can watch the TV. That's not what this is. So I appreciate our boss Tim Sweeney coming out and saying, yes, fantastic. Let's keep the political stuff sideways. And Brian, the reason we've never done it is because all it does is polarize half of your community. I think it's pretty accurate to say 50 people are on one side of the political aisle and 50 people are on the other. 50% of people are on the other. Let's just call it that for most things. So why would you say something like, I love Trump, or I love Obama, or I'm a Democrat, or I'm a Republican, to turn off half your audience? That just doesn't make any sense. It's bad for business. And the craziest part is, Brian, we're not really even in business. We are, but we're not sitting here selling copies of games or selling products where we're asking for people's support. I would think in an industry where you're trying to convince people to spend their money with you, you would be even more vigilant of keeping your own political opinions outside of your work. And it's baffling to me that it seems like every game studio that's out in California or on the West Coast is rampant on social media, with their political thoughts. It's uncomprehendable to me. And maybe this is the fact, Brian, that Epic Game Studios is not on the West Coast. It's located now. Here's a political statement for you. It's located in a very progressive area of North Carolina, but they don't have the West Coast influence. Yeah, I'm not going to get into the politics of the West Coast, but it is very clear that what the whole West Coast, there's just a very different way of things out there compared to most of the country. That's just the way it is. Well, and Epic isn't that. They're not out there.
One thing I will say, though, is they get in very much of an echo chamber in areas like where a lot of these game studios are.
Yeah, absolutely. With everything. It's not just politics, just general ideas.
Yeah. But they are surrounded by a lot of people that have the exact same way of thinking. And so, and just like, this happens everywhere. It's not just there. But you'll have people that have one way of thinking that's surrounded by people that think in the exact same way. So then they get the misunderstanding that, most people around you, yes, but they feel most people think this. And anyone else who thinks differently tends to be, ignorant, or, they don't understand, or, whatever. You could put whatever label you want on somebody for it. And I think this is a lot of the problem that they run into, is then they start spouting on social media, totally feeling like, almost everybody thinks this. And they'll say all their different political opinions, and they don't actually understand that, okay, well, you're in a little echo chamber. You're in a place where, sure, 90% of the people maybe think like you do. But as you said, there's 50% of the people nationwide that believe differently.
Yeah.
And so I think they struggle sometimes. And we realize that, hey, this is a gaming community. We don't have a thing that says you have to be this specific political view to be able to join our community. And so we would be splitting our community in half, because we're pulling people from all over the world. And we have people that definitely disagree with us politically in some areas, but you know what? That doesn't affect how we treat them as a person. They have their view, we have our view, and that's different. That's fine. We don't need to bring that into the show. We don't need to bring that into our, I guess we have a lot of friendships with people, in the Discord and over the years. Like, we don't need to bring that into this and separate because of it. And that's all that'll happen.
Friendships in Discord. We've flown across the country with these people. I've met many of our listeners for lunch. Like, we've met our friend Heisenberg for burgers in Boston. Like, this is, it's just insane that it's insane that Tim Sweeney says this, and it's a crazy idea.
Yeah.
Because we've been talking about this for 5 years. We've been talking about this since day one on this program. And it's a little crazy to see.
No.
So that I agree with. Now, the second part about, or the first part rather about, says companies, shouldn't be worrying about loot boxes, or condemns loot boxes, whatever you want to say. Okay.
Well, he's saying they should move away, and I think a lot of it
in some regards, yes, but in some regards, maybe not.
I think a lot of it brings some pressure to the industry.
Absolutely.
I think they get nervous when the industry is doing something that attracts politics to get involved. And maybe this is kind of how he linked the two together. I'd have to listen to the whole thing to see. But one thing is the UK has been pushing on this, but a lot of it is there's not a way for people to cash out. So that's kind of save this from being labeled as true gambling. Mm-hmm. But I can tell you, I kind of feel like with H1Z1, there was a way to cash out with loot boxes and the skins. Like, you could almost you got a certain skin, you put up on the market, you got money for it. I think that was very close to the fringe of gambling. And I think that's what they're trying to, they're like, okay, loot boxes started out with being different. They became really close to gambling. I think they're kind of backing away from that, which I'm fine with. Find something that is a little less of a pay to win type of mechanic.
Well, I'll say this: as much as I really do like, Tim Sweeney, the political thing is one thing, but he's asking companies to take away a system that could be making them hundreds of millions of dollars a year. So while it's cool to say, oh yes, we don't want any more loot boxes, how would you, Brian, let's say you're the director, or not the director, what's the head of a game studio? The what kind of title do they hold? They're not the president, they're the head of the game studio, whatever. You're the head of
the CEO. Let me just say the CEO.
Okay, the CEO of whatever game studio, and you've got a board of directors, very common. And you make $50 million a year on loot boxes. How can you walk into a boardroom for your quarterly meeting and say, the community says they don't want any, the Reddit says they don't want any more loot boxes, yet we're making $50 million a year. That's part of the issue. You know what will stop loot boxes, Brian? People stopping buying them. They will wean themselves out. So if you want to shine a flashlight on the big boogeyman of loot boxes, shine the light on your neighbor who's buying this crap and causing companies. We've said this a million times. Companies' jobs are to make money and make as much money as possible. That's what their goal is. They have shareholders, They have investors. They need to. Or if not, if Activision doesn't do well as a company, it's not just us, the gamer, that struggles. You've got people that have invested money. You've got lots of money. You've got regular shareholders. They're on the stock exchange. It's a huge deal. So while I'm not saying the companies have no fault whatsoever, if everybody just stops buying, we always say this, decide with your wallet. If everybody stops buying the loot boxes, they'll eventually go away.
Yeah.
So stop buying them. I mean, there's your solution to the problem.
I think Sweeney's done his part as far as they got rid of loot boxes in Fortnite. They changed the whole system with Rocket League. I think that showing and I think they did it right. Rather than saying, oh, loot boxes are bad, we're cutting them out and not creating alternative. I think they did a good job of implementing another system to kind of highlight, hey, here's a better way. What we feel like is a better way of doing this. So I think that makes a difference.
Well, you lead by example. And if you can't look at Fortnite and say, they're not a shining example for the industry. I mean, the success that they've had in the past 3 or 4 years is almost uncomparable. I don't know if it's ever been matched in modern day gaming. Like, let's say over the last 20 years. I don't know if it's been matched as quickly. Maybe early days of WoW and some of those early MMOs, but this game went from did not exist to the most played, hottest, most profitable video game in, it feels like a snap of a finger. So lead by example. And again, shine the flashlight on your neighbor. Don't shine the flashlight on Activision and say, oh, it's big spooky Activision with their loot boxes. Why the hell are people buying them? And because the consumers want them, so the companies are going to sell them. I mean, you ever been to a Walmart? They stock the stuff that people buy.
Yep.
If people aren't buying it, they don't stock it. I mean, this is just simple supply and demand. And I know it's a little bit different because it's a virtual good, but it's the same difference. If nobody was buying loot boxes, companies wouldn't sell them. So you're not going to convince a company that's making tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars a year off of selling virtual stuff that literally is some zero value to stop selling. It's just never going to happen. And if you think it's going to happen, you're living in a fairy tale land, because it's not. And the government's not going to regulate it, because the second that this actually gets any steam, these big companies are going to lobby the hell out of politicians, which is what pharmaceutical companies do, what tobacco companies do, what the cable. Why do you think you have one option, Brian, for internet in every single town across America? Because they lobby your politicians not to allow competition. So do not, please, believe me, this is not going to, believe me, seriously, this is not going to come to, U.S. politicians ban loot boxes. There's a 0% chance. I'll eat my hat, and you can put that in the book. What was the last thing I was going to eat my hat over? I didn't end up having to eat it. Oh, Fortnite being at PAX West. Fortnite. Guess what? I'm still wearing the hat. Not wearing it right now, but I still have the hat. I haven't had to eat it. So, shout out to Tim Sweeney, and we appreciate your support of the program.
Thanks. So here's another thing that kind of popped up and I saw some people making note of it. But
Yeah.
IRS deleted the guideline because they were going to ask people to claim virtual currencies on tax returns.
Really?
So they're saying that Fortnite's virtual currency had to be reported on tax returns, probably because they're looking at the number of dollars going into that company in currency, and they're just like, well, how do we make sure we're getting our percentage of that? So that was something that was kind of surprising.
The what would be so interesting about this is not for people like you and I, Brian, but for like the teenagers whose parents claim them on their tax returns would get screwed with deductions when they had to claim that their kids had millions of V-Bucks on some bullshit video game and end up having to either pay the government or not get anywhere near the tax return they wanted. What is the IRS thinking? And well, here's the other thing. Why just Fortnite? Because yes, they're the most popular.
Yeah, that's kind of a weird. So one thing, I mean, I think they're pushing this along with a Bitcoin type of thing.
Yeah.
And so, but they specifically mention Fortnite V-Bucks because it's being purchased with real dollars. And it says, by applying the same policy to in-game money that it enforces on Bitcoin, Ether, whatever cryptocurrency you're pushing at the current time. And this is something that I can understand Bitcoin because people are saying it's an alternate currency.
I would agree, and it can be used to purchase goods and items.
But I can't go to a store and use V-Bucks.
Have you tried?
To purchase deodorant? No, but I'm pretty sure they would be like, what?
Could you imagine going to like a Target or a Walmart and being like, oh, here's my Epic Games account here. I got all my V-Bucks. I got all my V-Bucks on. Yeah, going to a bar, trying to buy alcohol with V-Bucks. It sounds like a viral video. Green Man, I want an animation. Yes. V-Bucks in real life. Okay, but seriously, the question is, why is this not like WoW's got a currency?
Yeah.
Tarkov's got a currency. Like most games have a currency. Why is this? I understand Fortnite's the big example, but if you're going to do this for Epic Games and Fortnite, how can you not do this for every other game that's got an in-game currency, which almost all video games do in one form or another?
Yeah, I think they're viewing what they view as the big pile of cash that Epic has, because they report these numbers. We've had this many in sales. Politics are politics are just looking at the whole. Oh, this is a form of money. This is a big chunk of money. We have a chance to hopefully get some people, but most parents aren't keeping track of. And why don't they have it to where, I mean, they would have to come up with some sort of, it's like they would almost have to go through and have people put in additional information on their Epic account so that they can then track it with taxes and link it to a real person.
So I made this mistake when I was a wee lad, when I was a young whippersnapper on the internet, Brian. I had a gaming blog and we were an Amazon affiliate, and I made some pretty good money on Amazon. Like it was upwards of a couple $1,000s, and I was young. I was probably like 14 or 15 years old. Well, lo and behold, does an Amazon like 1099 or whatever the form is that they send you for your taxes. And boy, was my father livid when his deduction was like they lost hundreds of dollars in their deductions because I bought a bunch of shit on Amazon using the affiliate program. So who this would really hurt, and again, how would you even keep track of this? And the other thing too is, unlike something that you can track like dollars, you don't have an account history of your V-Bucks. They fluctuate, right? So you buy V-Bucks, then you use them in game. There's no it's not a bank account. Like you don't have a statement.
There's no cash value.
There's no cash value. There's no statement. How would you say at the beginning of the year I had 1 million V-Bucks and now I have 200,000? What are you going to go to the bank of Fortnite? collect your statement?
I'd like to claim a loss. I didn't earn all of my skins. I didn't earn all my skins when I purchased my season pass, so it's like a loss.
At least with other things like an affiliate program, there's a like a documented statement of what you made. Like we have to do this for Amazon or Twitch, like because they pay you. Like that's part of your taxes. How would you do that for Epic? They're gonna start. Could you imagine if Epic had to send a whatever form, like
or whatever?
No, it would be like a 1008 or something to every person in America that's got a Fortnite account. It would cost them hundreds of thousands in mail. It would just be a disaster. It would just be a disaster.
And I think that this is something that the IRS thought was a good idea. Realized it would be it could be a PR disaster in the end.
JD saying, think you would be paying taxes when you buy them. No. This article states that the IRS would ask you to report them on your tax returns. So you'd have a form like box E84 would be like, how many V-Bucks do you have or something like that. That wouldn't make any sense. So shout out to I don't make political statements, but shout out to the government for trying to make people put V-Bucks on their tax returns.
Oh yeah, it was the 10. Yeah, it was the 1040. That's what it was.
Yeah, could you imagine? What a disaster! And most of these kids don't file their tax returns.
What's funny is on the official IRS form, it'll say, "Do you have V-Bucks?" Imagine how many old people are like, "What? What's a V-Buck?" You're gonna have all these elderly people who have no clue. And it's going to be this phrase asking if you have, and why are they calling out one individual company on
that's the problem
on a 1040? Yeah. Do you have this one company's virtual currency? Yeah, it's pretty silly.
So yeah, Duck says the same thing. What about bits on Twitch?
Yeah,
same thing.
I mean, if this went that way, I mean,
dangerous.
To be fair, they'd have to start doing it everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any kind of virtual currency.
And I would expect Epic to lobby hard to make sure that they're not the only ones getting lambasted by this. What this really shows is okay. So we just had a conversation about loot boxes, and the reason I don't want any government intervention in loot boxes is what we just talked about. The IRS trying to put V-Bucks on a federal tax return. I mean, that's insanity. And that just kind of shows in all spans of technology how out of touch, in most of the time, how out of touch government is with technology. And this is just another shining example of it. So there you go. Your gaming news source, Infection Podcast. Get your V-Bucks, kids.
Well, we've mentioned it a little bit here, but PUBG put out and now this is on the test server, but I did notice they just did like an 11 gigabyte patch on PUBG, so maybe this is going to live, or I don't know, but you'd have to see.
Look at it. What's in this patch?
All right, so one thing that they're doing is there is now a team deathmatch mode.
Interesting.
So, getting away from what have we called this? BR burnout?
Official TM.
Yeah. I mean, so let's see if you feel like this is something that sounds familiar. 8 versus 8, first person only, weapon spawn kits, respawns, no knockdowns, no friendly fire.
Oh man.
So,
you know what?
Sounds a lot like Call of Duty.
Okay. Agreed. You know what this really is? This is a way that you can get good at a BR. Is you can learn the game over and over and over again very rapidly by playing this, which has always been my barrier to entry with almost every BR, is that the gun mechanics and the style of playing is so intense that it takes, and the games are so freaking long in PUBG that you never have a chance to learn. So this is a very quick, the fact that this hasn't already been in there is almost incomprehensible. But this is fantastic. I guarantee you this does good wonders for PUBG's numbers, because you can keep your skills. I would say most people, you will be able to benefit greatly from just playing a couple of these. Just learn on go. That's where I need to shoot at people, which is a big part of these games. Because in Call of Duty, you pretty much shoot anywhere. You're supposed to aim for the head, but shooting at the torso and the leg is pretty much the same thing. In a BR and in like games like Tarkov, and totally different. It's
Yeah.
You need to make sure your shots count. And if somebody's wearing body armor, you don't want to shoot them in the body because you're going to waste a bunch of ammo and not do any damage. So this is good.
So there's a video if you want to play that really quick.
Yes.
Kind of as an announcement for this team deathmatch. Remember, this is currently, maybe it's on live now as of today, but it was on just the test server.
Wait. Oh, team death. There's. All right, here we go. Sorry. All right. I'll tell you what. There hasn't been many things recently, Brian, that have in any way, shape, or form, and no updates have pulled me at all towards PUBG, or frankly, almost any BR. I would actually play a mode like this. I'm not saying I will, just because it, like any other game, unless you're playing with people, unless you're playing with 3 or 4 of your friends, it's probably not any good. But this is a mode that I could actually see myself playing. You're talking about 3 rounds in a match, 10 minutes to play, quick respawns, no gear up to get your ass handed to you on a silver platter. None of that. Very fast pace, quick, clean gunplay. That's what this is. This is just gunplay, which is awesome.
And Ducky is making a comment, 3 rounds in 1 match takes around 10 minutes. I think having the quicker, faster, shorter games as well helps, because that's one thing with a BR. You could get stuck in a 45-minute game easy if you're doing well.
Yeah. And doing well might not necessarily mean that you're doing well. You could do a 45-minute game and just not run across anybody. You don't have to be a hermit proning across the entire map. You could just happen to not run into anybody.
Yeah. So I think that this will help kind of boost their week-to-week numbers, especially. But it'll be interesting to see if people really take to it, how well it's done. Does it feel right? When you're having, because if there's weird little issues with movement and gunplay, like this brings it to the attention. Like this brings it to the forefront. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. One thing that they're doing.
I have a question for you. Do you see a lot of other games following suit?
A lot of the BRs, I bet you we start seeing BRs do this, because I think we're going to start seeing BRs kind of decrease. People are kind of getting frustrated. We've talked about it, frustrated with BRs.
Yeah.
I think you're going to start seeing them kind of merge closer and closer to probably a hybrid of like what Call of Duty is versus, the normal BRs that we see. You'll probably see regular first-person shooters maybe adopting some of the things from BRs that are good, are nice, and you'll probably see these kind of starting to adopt some of the first-person shooter mechanics like this, because I think people liked BRs because they were different initially. They're not different anymore.
No.
And I think that now, okay, we've got our fill of that. Like, let's do something. Let's just look at what's the most fun game and quit trying to make it a BR. What's the most fun? I think people have gotten their fill of BRs and are ready to try something different.
I tend to agree, Mr. Brian.
Now, this patch does include some of those kind of blood improvements. Remember, we showed last week some of the blood effects that they did. Yeah. They made some different effect to the blue zone, like it doesn't have like lightning on it anymore. One thing that they've done is they're implementing they originally did that skills-based rating, the lab, they're going to be they're doing a second test of that. So they're doing a number 2 for that one. So they should be doing, you should see in there, you can opt into that lab for the skills-based rating. Also, they've been improving the UI for the friends list. They've also, one thing they changed, let's see, I'm trying to find where it was in the notes. There was a pretty big thing they changed. I can't find it now. But they've got a pretty long list of updates and changes and things like that. If I see it here, I'll let you know. But there's one thing I noticed, and I was like, oh, it's actually a pretty big change, but I'm not seeing it right at the moment.
So the likelihood is that
oh yeah, the follow feature. Sorry, the parachute follow feature. That's what it was.
What is that?
You can now. So like for instance, in Fortnite, when you're in a team and someone jumps out, the leader jumps out, it'll automatically follow that leader, so you all land in the same place. They've added that into this test. Yeah, and Apex, they do that as well. So now they have it to where you can jump together and it'll automatically follow the leader in the parachute sequence on here as well.
I like that. That's pretty neat.
Yeah. And that's what I'm talking about. Like them kind of bringing in various features, what works. Okay, well, that's anything. It doesn't have to be a BR, anything where you jump into the world for any reason or move. Like start pulling the features that work. And I think that we've seen Fortnite do that. We've seen a number of games kind of say, all right, well, maybe we didn't create it, but that works well. Let's put it in our game. And not really, it used to be people would get, I think companies would get mad when someone copied a mechanic. I think that's becoming kind of the standard now. It's like, oh, that works. Let's put it in.
Yeah. For some reason, I guess video game developers thought that they were somehow special, and that every other industry, everybody copies each other because you copy what's successful. And it's not always the first one that makes it. Google's the biggest example of this. Google makes so many products, and the products are not the greatest, and somebody else comes in and makes just a better version of that product, and it becomes like a super mainstream thing. Yeah. That's what companies, that's what it is. I mean, that's what it is. So get over it.
Yeah, and I think it'll be interesting to see how over the next year, 2 years, we start seeing, now that the BR I think is peaked, kind of see where it goes from here. That kind of next phase of, oh, this is cool, this is new, this is different.
I just wonder why it's taken so long. It's taken forever. The follow
usually
feature,
you'll get out of it.
2 years. 2 years. I would have grabbed that. I would have grabbed that day one. I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. Let's just do it. I mean, you're ripping them off anyway, so you might as well.
PUBG's always been a little bit slow at kind of adopting these things, so I don't know how much of it has to do with that.
Yeah,
but
interesting.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how all these different companies start to do this. So
yes, sir.
But yeah, that's pretty much. I think that's the main things that we've seen with PUBG. So check it out if you need to. Try downloading the regular, or see if your regular client's updated first. Jump in there and see if you see these features. If you don't, then you might need to do the test server. Now, I know that one of your favorite games, I know you haven't been playing as much lately, but Dead by Daylight, they did their Chapter 15 teaser. I don't know. It's a really quick video.
It is very quick.
I tabbed out. I started it when I originally viewed it the first time, tabbed out, came back, and it was something else was playing. I was like, what happened to the video? It was 15 seconds. So
16. Here we go.
16 seconds. Here we go.
And an MSRB, ESRB, and a logo. 12 seconds. 11.
10 seconds of intro.
Okay, so that was about 7 seconds based on my math.
Of actual
7 seconds. It's a teaser. That's what it's for. What are they teasing though? This is their new. This is part of their. They've got new. They constantly bring in new killers, and this Chapter 15 is going to be their newest. Their newest update. So they're teasing that. But this update here,
I'm not sure exactly which. I'm not sure which killer this would be though. I mean, it's showing a chain, like a chain's being like something is pulling against a chain.
Now, to be fair, this could be a rework of a current killer. I know they've been doing a lot of that. I doubt it, but it's possible. but let's see. So it's a new killer. He has guns and can break through walls. No more looping. He shoots chains like harpoons. So that's the chains. Pretty interesting.
So that'll be, yeah. So we'll hopefully, I mean, this of course is just the teaser, but I'm expecting that we'll start to see. So the breakable walls, that's a new feature that they're talking about. So that's going to be to where it's going to be available to all killers. So breakable walls isn't going to be for that specific killer. But they'll have it to where you can break down walls that will definitely make a difference to kind of the loop, as you mentioned a minute ago, of the game, of how you kind of run around and do different things. A killer being able to kind of circumvent and go directly at a person, I think will make a big difference.
That's a fact.
They're making a lot of changes also to like the sabotage, to repair, like toolbox repairs, item retention. Like this is going to be a fairly significant patch, I think, as far as changes to mechanics in the game.
Yes. So. Thank you to our friend Battery Included for hitting us with the 200 cheers. Make sure you download your Twitch form for your tax returns, Battery, so that you can
claim that.
You can tell the IRS that, hey, I gave $200. I gave 200, whatever the hell these things are called, to a couple of jamokes that do a podcast. Make sure you write that in on your tax return. So thank you for that. We appreciate it. He's a bits leader now. You also got to put that on your tax return. I'm a bit leader in the Affection Podcast.
Mark the date and the time frame. Yeah.
IMDb, your LinkedIn. I mean, if we're gonna go all in, we're all in. Mark it down. Everyone. Executive producer.
We got this.
Yes, sir.
All right.
So hold on a second. Back to Dead by Daylight. They, I think, are finally, and I've been out of it for a little while. So with that being said, when I was actively playing the game, I logged almost 200 hours in a relatively short period. That's a lot of time. So I think they're finally starting to listen to some of the complaints that have been complaints for a long time. Ruin, for example, they just redid Ruin. We talked about it a couple weeks ago, that perk. That has been a gripe forever. And I'm starting to see the things that they're changing things on the toolbox. They are finally starting to, and maybe it's because they're at a point development-wise where they can afford to work on, this is always a struggle for games, QOL or new content that you can make money on. QOL is great for your existing players, but once you buy the game, there's no more revenue from me in most cases. So it's hard for them to devote time to quality of life fixes when you can go make a new killer and sell it for $15 or $20 to 100,000 people. So that's always a struggle for games, and maybe they've hit a plateau of success in which they can now say, all right, now let's spend some time, and because I mean it's kind of a zero, like you get no really return on quality of life. It's not something that you can sell. There's no money to be made, but it makes the game better for existing players, which isn't always the priority, because at the end of the day, you got to pay your staff. You don't pay your staff by fixing Ruin. You make it by bringing in a new killer and selling copies of it.
Well, I think also there may be a little bit of concern with the danger that they are repeating a lot of mechanics in this game.
Yeah.
You know, that I think there's a danger that when you've played this enough, you keep adding killers, but you don't change the underlying mechanics quite enough. I mean, I think they've done a good job of giving some variety to the killers. I think they've added some variety to the killers, but I think for the players, the people that are running away, I think for them, there's not enough even of that variety. I think the killers generally will act enough the same to where you could get bored just being a regular player, being like, all right, I'm doing the same thing over and over and over again. In the end, after you played it for however many hundreds of hours, maybe, you know, for some people, thousands of hours. So I think that maybe they're kind of realizing, well, hey, we may need to mix this up just to keep it from getting stale and people leaving the game just because they feel like nothing has really changed over the past couple of years.
Yeah. And I mean, while I really enjoy the game, I know that there's a couple of people in our community that have it that aren't really active. And I'm sure some of that is because of what you've described a little bit there.
Yeah. It's just I think for them this is smart. Make it to where it feels fresh. See if you get some of those people back. Find out if you change something and maybe it was a mechanic that people really enjoyed. Keep that mechanic around. I think this would be a good time for them to kind of start putting new things in. If something doesn't work, don't be afraid to take it back.
Yes.
But make sure you keep it a fun game. But I think it is important that they do adapt a little bit and don't get to where they're just like, oh, well, this is working. Like, let's not rock the boat.
Yeah, that's stupid.
At what point do you then say, oh, well, we've lost half our player base. Okay, let's start rocking the boat now. Do it before it starts to drop off.
Yeah, no, agree completely. Could not agree more. Firebomb says the new map is a Western map. You feel like you are in a Wild West. Totally feels like a new game. Even has a saloon like a Western movie. I dig it.
Cool.
He says I have 1,300 hours. I still love it, but I take breaks more often now. Yeah, makes sense. Why would you not?
It's a lot of. I mean, there's a lot of repetition to it. I think if they can get it to where each map has a little bit different feel. I mean, they put in some maps that do feel a little bit different, but the base of them are pretty much the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
no, totally. There's no arguing that. I mean, you're spot on.
All right. Is there anything else you wanted to discuss with that?
No, I've been a little out of the loop on Dead by Daylight, so my my hot takes are not as hot as they maybe were in the past.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go.
Cool. Well, I wanted to announce our initial game giveaway. If you want to do that.
Yes, sir. What are we
doing? All right. So I'm going to be giving away a copy of Invisible Ink. And this is a stealth turn-based cyberpunk indie, kind of in anticipation of the cyberpunk thrill and rage that everybody will be talking about here, in 6 months? I'm sure we'll have lots of people all cyberpunked out. But this is a game that has very positive ratings. It looks like a fun game, so we'll give it away. It's about $20, I think, $19.99 currently on Steam. So if you're interested in that, exclamation point giveaway, and then we'll give that away before the end of the show.
Yeah. Speaking of survival games, Brian, DayZ, who I don't know if it's that we are covering it more. It seems like to me, and you do a lot of the pre-prep stuff, so you probably know better. They seem to be a whole hell of a lot more active than they were in the past. Would you agree with that? It just seems like over the past couple months that they're more on the ball.
Yeah, I mean, I think they did their initial, and I put in there that gameplay trailer that we have shown before, but just that was kind of like the beginning of this. Hey, DayZ's a real game now. Like, come and try, because there was a long time it kind of dropped off, and you didn't hear anything about it for a long time.
Yeah.
And I think now they're actually trying to maybe get people maybe they feel like it's in a stable enough place to where it's worth playing and it's not going to drive people away. I mean, they've got a lot of the stuff there. The main mechanics, I know that they were struggling for a long time. I mean, I don't think all the mechanics they even promised are in there yet.
They're still struggling. The inventory still doesn't work. I played the game like 6 weeks ago. It didn't work. Yeah.
So I think that I don't know if they're trying to get more people to purchase it to continue funding development or what it is, but yeah, they seem like they're getting a little more active lately.
So there is a new update here. This is the 1.07 stable update. So let's take a quick look at that, and we'll be back to discuss right after this.
Yeah.
Pre-order it. Pre-order at GameStop for exclusive a coaster.
Yep.
Power of the players.
So one thing they showed in there was some of the amusement park. They have 4 amusement park locations now that they put around the map. They added a new weapon, the repeater. It's like a 30-30 with 357 rounds. And then they added 12 gauge rubber slugs, which I assume is for you to knock out somebody without killing them. I would assume.
Yeah, probably.
And then they have a whole list of fixes and some changes that they've done. So they've also added some things for modding in there. Also, adjustments for the servers, and then it's just mostly it's a slight map update, a lot of fixes, and a new gun is pretty much what it comes down to.
Coolio.
And this is the only thing they've really done since that Livonia. I mean, they had Livonia that they put out, and then they did that trailer, and now they're actually making some updates. So
yeah,
we will see.
I really want. I've said this. I'm not going to beat the dead horse. Well, I will beat the dead horse quickly. I want to love DayZ. Every experience I've had with the standalone has been less than subpar.
Yeah.
So
I mean, they really should focus on fixing the game, making the game as fun as possible, and then be like, hey, we did it. Come play our game.
Yeah.
But I haven't really seen that.
No. Phantom points out that mods are keeping the game alive. That's the last time I played. That's what I heard, is that you shouldn't playing official stupid.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I just haven't been. I bought it. I haven't been tempted to play it since we played it together. So
I don't blame you. I have owned it for probably 7 years, and I haven't been tempted to play it just but a couple times. So it's unfortunate. Here's another game, Brian, that we've talked about. Whitstand Survival. They are coming out. I believe it's late March, and they have got a devlog here. This is devlog 15, in which they want you to go pre-order the game. And I see that my link didn't work. So this is devlog 15. There's a quick video that I'm going to show that shows some melee stuff, and then there's some other things as well that are part of this update. All right. So what's that showing there is pretty much the melee weapon that's going to be there on launch, which is going to be the metal pipe. The dev says later, I want to add more weapons, axe, baseball bats, things like that. But something else Brian, that you don't normally see on the launch of a game is underwater. But the game's not even out yet, and there already appears to be some sort of underwater environment. I'm not sure if there's going to be a scuba system or if this is going to be maybe like a Conan style. You have a large, breath, large oxygen system that you can kind of dive down and manage and then swim back up to the top and kind of do that over and over again. So there's some screenshots of that. Got some loot on the ground, on the ocean floor, sea floor, whatever you want to call it, which looks cool. The ocean looks pretty nice. Nice tropical colors, hot pinks, teals, and blues. So that looks pretty nice. And then here's some screenshots of what appears to be some sort of diner restaurant with a counter and some booths that are set up. Some sort of oceanside thing with a bunch of jacked up wooden boats that are all kind of broken and shattered. A cemetery, more looks like some sort of cemetery courtyard. The weather system that we talked about a couple weeks ago, and some abandoned buildings. This inside doesn't look textured. It's all kind of gray. But the model
looks like they just blocked it up.
Yeah. So let's keep an eye on this. It does come out March 5th. I guess I gotta send this guy a message. It comes out on March 5th. I'm not sure if we have a price point yet, but something to keep an eye on. Another new survival game. Early
Very
access, we get it. This is part of the game. Part of the whole shtick with early access, but something to keep an eye out for. Something maybe add to your wish list if you're interested.
Very good. Check it out. And one thing I wanted to mention, I think that is an Unreal game too. So
I'm sure it is.
Yeah, it has that look to me of Unreal. So on there, here's another game that was actually, I don't think we've ever talked about up to this point, but it's called Blazing Sails, and it's a pirate battle royale. Now, I know we've discussed BR Burnout. Do you think that a pirate BR is different enough to where perhaps it will hold people's interest?
I'm not going to speak to the BR part of it, but I will speak to the pirateness of it. I own a couple of pirate games. Black Wake.
Mm-hmm.
I own 2. Black Wake and another one. And then there's Sea of Thieves, of course, which is the big one. For some reason that I have had a very good time playing Black Wake. Black Wake is awesome. It's got super cool mechanics. Like your ship is constantly on fire and you're like going out and dumping buckets of water. It's super, super fun, super cool, great mechanics. But I haven't gone back and played it.
Yeah.
So something with this pirate genre doesn't seem I don't know. It doesn't do it for me.
Well, how about we play the video?
Seaman?
It was at one point.
Okay.
How about we play the trailer on here, and then we just see if it looks like it'd be a fun game.
Blazing Sails. Here we go.
Yes.
Blazing. Don't take it out of context.
PAX 2020.
Oh man, sorry, blazing a little too much on the on the podcast. Sorry. So that's Blazing Sails. It's got a Sea of Thieves look in terms of the kind of like pastel, I guess would be the color. It's also got a Wildlands look. Okay, here's the issue I have with pirate games, Brian. They're all the same. You're in a boat, you shoot cannons at other ships, you can grapple, you can, shoot and do your swingy thing onto another boat. I don't think there's enough variation for there to be. I mean, there's at least half a dozen relatively mainstream boat games and pirate games.
I mean, one may do a little bit better than another one is at like mechanics, but I just don't see
What can you
they
do
can't create them
mechanic-wise,
different.
though?
I'm saying as far as like the way that you swing from the masts and the way that like one can do a little bit better of making that feel like a better action, but they're still doing the same thing. The gunplay, I'm sure they could improve. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how many other things other than making a system where it's kind of like EVE Online, where as in like you getting a ship is actually you upgrade your ship and you have a big crew and people are running it in real time and like it becomes a big deal like that. That's the kind that I think people would take to, less of this casual battle royale style.
Yeah,
because there's too many already like that.
And then there's a huge battle and people lose. What was that EVE Online battle that ended up costing like $1.5 million in terms of loss? Like it was a huge battle. Kramit points out this game it literally has a bunch of Sea of Thieves animations that seem a complete copy. I'm not sure. I bet you it's not a complete copy. But again, how different can you make an animation of, as Firebomb quotes me, swinging a thing? What kind of variation can you put in shooting a cannon? Seriously. I mean, there's not. And that's the problem. At least with survival games and with battle royales, there are so many things you can... Not so many. There's a lot more things you can change than this. There's a couple consistents. You're on the water. You have a boat. Mm-hmm. There's a sail and some cannons. I mean, that's the core of your game. How do you change that?
Yeah.
Tell me what you change about that. Tell me about those 4 core things. What do you change? And what do you make your...
That's right.
Where's your innovation on shooting a cannonball?
That's what I'm saying is they'd have to make the game almost about getting the better ship, less about the piratey, whatever mechanics of it, but like make the ship and getting that ultimate giant pirate ship, the galleons and all that. Atlas. Make that the game. Yeah, like Atlas.
Yeah, but guess what? Nobody's playing
earning
Atlas,
that.
So
yeah, but I'm saying more of like the long term, like you progress and kind of like a ranking system, you upgrade to better ships, not something that can be instantly taken away from you. Like Atlas. Yeah. So
I've always enjoyed the pirate games I've played, but not enough to play Sea of Thieves, which we've had a couple people try to get me to play and buy. I'm just not interested. And this is kind of the same. Was there a price point in the video? Blazing Sails. Is it going to be free to play? It doesn't say.
I see wish list here.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing a price.
Yeah, neither am I. Yeah, I don't see a price here either. So it's coming in 2020. They have a Discord. And shout out to Nisco. I believe he was the one that posted this. He's always... I don't know what this guy does, but he always seems to find these games that no I've never heard of before. And the release date is early 2020. So
it says about 2 weeks. So no, March 5th is when they're supposed to be.
Oh, well then.
Oh wait, no, sorry, that's Whitstand. I'm wrong on that. I was remembering the wrong one.
I'm misremembering.
Yeah, I'm misremembering. So this will be, who knows, probably a month or two, you would think.
Yeah. You get a Steam key in 10 seconds. Oh, it's a closed alpha. Well, I assume you go to their Discord.
Right now, yeah.
Yeah. So if you're interested, if you're a pirate fan, I'd recommend checking them out. I would assume their Discord has a way that you can get in there and take a look at that. Their headline is "A fresh take on Battle Royale." That to me seems insincere because it's frankly bullshit. It is.
Yeah, it's not really a fresh take.
It's not. And that I understand how marketing and things kind of work, and how you sell things, but to me as a video game journalist, Brian, and we've literally covered we have been doing this show since before the BR craze even existed. We've seen it from its literally non-existence to where we are today. A statement like that is an instant turnoff to me because it's not accurate.
Yeah.
It's not accurate. It's just not. And to me, it's a huge turnoff.
Yeah.
Because it seems insincere. Now, maybe for the Joe Schmo that's browsing through Steam, it's like, oh, that's cool. But to me, it just seems very insincere. Maybe I'm too blunt for advertising. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't see advertising as your future. I'm sorry.
No, I just mean in terms of advertising towards me. Maybe my personality just, I don't know. Stuff like that just, if they were just to say, hey, we understand BR is a popular thing. We understand everybody's doing BRs. We think we can do one too. That would make me more apt to buy the game than a title like this. Know your place.
Yeah.
That's part of the key.
Yeah. Just say a BR done differently. You know, I mean, it is in a way. I mean, it's not like it's a fresh take. It's just a BR that's done in a different mechanic. I mean, a different genre. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's whatever. It's the same BR in the end.
Fast-paced pirate action. Now that sounds like a Friday night I can get in on.
Yep.
Okay. So that's Blazing Sails. Thanks to Nisco for popping that in our Discord. And if you know of a game that exists out there, this one's not even that new. It's not out yet, but this trailer's a couple months old. So thanks, Nisco, for posting that. And if there's a game that we're not talking about, please post it in our news channel in Discord so that we can talk about it on the program.
Well, and I'm going to mention really quickly, we said it, Atlas. They did put out a patch this week. They are hit and miss when it comes to patches, but they did put out one patch since the last episode. This one is 404.8. The previous one was 404.7. And they fixed a server-side crash, some server-side crashes, and they fixed a crash preventing players from launching Blackwood. So, whatever. There you go. That's pretty much it. So we'll see if we continue to hear more from Atlas in the future. One interesting article here was talking about the success of Witcher 3 since the Netflix show, The Witcher.
Yes.
And the Witcher 3 sales were up by 554% thanks to that show. Compared to
December last year, yeah.
Yes.
When the game was much newer. December 2018.
Yep. And that was only, had only been out for a couple of years at that point, right?
Yeah, I mean, the game's been out for a while, but there's been a lot of games that came out between December of 2018 and December 2019. Lots of games.
Yeah. And also it has made it so for his books, even, he's printed now 500,000 additional copies of his book because of the TV show as well.
So I put this in here and I know we're running a little long here, so I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it, but I put this in here, Brian, we have really not seen video games or movies that have gone either way. Either it's a video game first and it becomes a TV show or a movie, or a TV show / movie first and it becomes a video game. That's always been awful. By the way, the Sonic movie, which I haven't seen yet, apparently it's really good, is the best box office opening video game movie ever. And the video game movies have existed for 30 years. I mean, there was video game movies back in the early 90s. So I kind of put this in here to say, are we going to start seeing more of this now? I mean, you talk about a game that was past itself, but people were not buying Witcher 3. They weren't. The game was out for years. And then they do a Netflix show and their sales 554%. That's crazy. And their player counts have reached all-time highs after the game has been out for years. Yep.
Now, what do you think? There's another game was with the umbrella. What's that one where there's like a virus outbreak? Remember the name of it.
Talking about Resident Evil?
Resident Evil. They have they do movies and they have games. I think that one has done an okay job. I think they're kind of separate from each other as far as one doesn't really, I don't think the movies make people want to go play the game.
No. It's the people that play the game that go see the movies. In this case, you had people that watch The Witcher on Netflix and
and
said,
and it
wow,
brought them the other direction.
yeah, this is amazing. So I wonder if we'll see more. I wonder if we'll see more of this. Games, not necessarily new games, but games that have a story that you can turn into, like Call of Duty. That's not going to work. There's no story really. I mean, there is. But
and Doche brings up World War Z, and that's one where the book. So the movie was based on a book.
Yep.
But they did them very differently. I mean, if you read the book, it's not like here's the movie. They're very different. But then they of course tried to put that into a video game, concepts, and I don't think that's gone anywhere. So, I don't think there's very many that have ever really been able to break that. But I think that you're going to see people definitely starting to try now. I mean, with the success of that, I think you're going to see it become somewhat of a marketing technique. But I think if you tried to make this happen, I don't know that it would work.
No,
because the game is so good. And I think if you have a really good game that has a really good story, I think you'd have an easier time, as I've said before, going to a movie or a show versus trying to make a game. They always fail making games out of TV shows and movies.
Yes, they do. And they're gimmicky, and they're made, and I think intentionally, they're made to sell to the hardcore. Like, you look back at the NES and you look at like or SNES, the Ninja Turtle games, like they were awful. They were terrible. But in the
day, the arcade versions were pretty common.
But the point is, in that day and time, those games were being sold to the people that were all in on Ninja Turtles, and it serves its purpose. But The Witcher, it seems like is like totally crazy. Like, you have people that either had never heard of The Witcher before and watched Netflix and said, let's be clear, The Witcher was not a small game. This was a very well-known game series beforehand. This is not an unknown series. This isn't some little indie game that got a Netflix show. This is CD Projekt Red. This is a very large. This is Cyberpunk. This is huge. So I wonder if we'll start seeing more of this on streaming.
And Judd brought up like We Happy Few movie. That one I think would struggle because it's not as well known. But BioShock he brings up. I think BioShock, if done right, could be a very good movie.
Movies, TV shows are the solution. Movies aren't doing.
Movies
aren't the way.
Or a TV show on Netflix, something like that. But I think that would be very interesting to see the BioShock story, because I think that is one where they have enough history in the BioShocks, a couple of BioShocks, 3 BioShocks, I think, behind them, to where if they did a really good series about it, you'd have people go playing all 3 BioShocks again.
Yes.
And I think that's the perfect example of one that could work.
Yeah. So with streaming services now, though, you can do it. Like,
do it, and if it doesn't take, then just stop developing them.
Yeah, well, you sign up for a season. I mean, it's very simple.
That's what I'm saying. You do a season. If it takes, go do season 2 and keep going on the train. If it doesn't, okay, you're out some money, but it's Netflix. What do they?
Netflix. Do you know Netflix's budget for 2020 is $15 billion? That's what they're intending on spending on productions this year.
Hey, they've done a good job of keeping people on their platform. I mean, they've done some price raises here and there. They've lost some shows. They add shows. People, I think, have kind of, because used to be people would quit. Oh, they took my show off Netflix. They're like, I'm going to cancel. You don't hear that anymore because they're putting out enough original content. They know what people are watching. If people are watching it, they're going to keep it on there.
Well, speaking of things getting pulled off platforms you like, Brian, boy, you tell you what, you're magnificent. I really do love you, Brian. You're the best co-host I've ever had. There was a story that came out this week about NVIDIA's GeForce Now, which is their streaming service, similar to the Google service in some, not the same, but similar. It's a subscription service where you get access to games, and it's $5 a month. They have a free version, but it limits you to an hour of playing. All of a sudden, last week, NVIDIA announced that all of the Activision Blizzard games are getting pulled off their service. And this was, obviously this is a shock. This is the statement from NVIDIA. While unfortunate, we hope to work together with Activision Blizzard to re-enable these games and move in the future. We'll be sure to provide updates if we get any additional information. So apparently there's a dispute, and it is a contract dispute between Blizzard and NVIDIA. NVIDIA apparently did not sign a contract with Activision Blizzard, and they still have not as of now. And this article's been out a week. It came out last Wednesday. So imagine this, Brian. You use GeForce Now, which allows you to, it allows you to stream your PC games, but your Activision games are gone. That's a problem. Go ahead.
Is this a possible issue with Stadia as well? I mean,
absolutely.
With Stadia, you're buying the game, but is there an ability for them to pull because it's when you start streaming games that becomes something different. You then have licensing. You don't truly own, which you don't really own the games anyways. But you could lose the ability to truly have that game and take it with you. I mean, if the platform goes down, I guess it's the same thing with PlayStation. But I think
not true though. If PlayStation goes down, you can put a disc in your system and it'll play.
If you have a disc, but a lot of them are digital. But I mean, that's pretty far-fetched concept of happening.
The difference I see between that is you're actually downloading the game to your system in terms of Shield,
and then you have a copy.
Yeah, well, Shield's a little bit different because it's kind of a hybrid service. GeForce Now is a hybrid, but my big concern with this was Stadia because you just talked about people saying, I love watching Friends is always the one you see when they announce they're losing Friends, which is what show's 15, 20 years old. It's an old show.
Yeah.
But they're getting Seinfeld back, which is awesome. Best show ever. When those shows stop, people do literally cancel their subscriptions, which is crazy to me. But this is a concern for streaming going forward, not just with Stadia, but with Xbox moving towards this with their Game Pass, PlayStation moving towards it with PlayStation Now. You're in the middle of playing Red Dead Redemption, and
all of a sudden a legal dispute comes up. And
not even a legal dispute. Maybe you don't follow the news, Brian. Maybe you just buy the service and play the games, and then all of a sudden, June 1st hits, and the game's gone.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, what the hell?
Well, and even especially with Stadia, where they have to maintain clients specifically for that platform.
Yeah.
That is kind of a concern too, because if a studio feels like they're not getting enough sales on a platform, are they going to continue to maintain updates and work on making the content work on that platform? I mean, there is the possibility they say, you know what, we're no longer supporting Stadia. That is 100% a possibility.
Yes. I think it's, I don't think you say it's 100% possibility. I think it's a real possibility. I'm not going to say, oh, it's possible. I think it's a real possibility that call it 400 days down the line, year and a half, something like that, doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. And so I think that is the danger where with consoles and even with Steam, I think personally that we're going to be moving away from you truly owning a copy of the game. I think you're getting a license, and I think we're going to start seeing a molding of services. Because I always wondered, like, why hasn't this been happening? But I think this is going to be the thing that with crossplay and you're playing a game is less about what you're playing it on, right? People are still playing together. You're getting to where whether you're on an Xbox, whether you're on a PlayStation, whether you're on a PC, whether you're on a device, whatever it is, I think it's going to matter less and less over time. And I think it's going to be to where I own this game, and maybe like what Destiny 2 has had, what they've done is you own the game and then you purchase the DLCs and things, but it's really, you have one copy of the game, but your DLCs are purchased somewhere else, which they still get all that money from you, right?
Yeah.
But you can log in on whichever one you do, and it's linked to your account, right? So you still have your characters and everything else. I think we're going to start seeing to where it's less about, I have this game on PlayStation, I have this on Xbox. They're totally separate. I think you're going to have it where you have an account, and we'll start. And I think that'll be a new marketing way of doing it, is you have the game everywhere, but, oh, you don't have that DLC on this platform. Okay, you got to purchase it again.
Yeah. It's something to be wary of if you're planning on embracing the streaming platform, which the streaming services, which I think is great if you can afford to do so monetarily and you're interested, I think it's fantastic. It's just something to keep in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
Same thing that Netflix, same thing that Amazon does. Licensings expire, and when the license expires, they may not be able to stream you the game.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
So.
And that is a danger. So the world of video games is changing to a point. I mean, we haven't had to really deal with this.
I mean, I work in IT. You worked in IT for a long period of time. You you probably saw this better than anybody else. You saw purchasing software go from that to SAS in like a 10-year, 8 to 10 year period where you can't even buy a copy of Photoshop anymore. You can't buy a copy of Adobe Pro.
And even Office,
it's not available.
Like they want you to sign up for Office 365. Like everything is becoming a service, which I understand when things are having to constantly be patched and things are being maintained regularly anyways, because of security, it makes more sense. But do people really want their games as a service? I don't know. I think there's a lot of dangers with that.
Unlike software as a service, where you're buying Photoshop, you probably use it a lot. How many games
you have? A lot of games.
1,300 games in your Steam library, some
like that,
stupid number like that. Can you imagine if you had to pay an SAS fee for every single one of those?
Yeah, I mean, and
you'd be broke. You have to mortgage your house to keep your Steam library.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that I'd be concerned about is them. I mean, at least with things like Netflix and those television shows, there's people to watch certain shows. You're paying for the whole service. You're getting a few things. That kind of makes sense for video games, but this whole one by one thing, like they're doing with Stadia, that concerns me. I just don't see that working. You paying a service and then also paying for a game. I can't imagine them trying to do that with Netflix. I mean, can you imagine they're saying, all right, you pay for a service to be able to stream to your house, but then you also pay to watch the show. That's like, how is this a deal? Yeah, with this, people seem to think it's okay. I think it's just kind of crazy.
Well, it's like kind of what Hulu does.
Yeah, but Hulu just makes you watch ads.
Yeah,
you
but
pay
it's the same
for
difference. It's kind of the same difference. You're paying to get access to it to watch an ad, which is they're getting paid for. It's kind of a similar. It's not exactly the same, but
people are more willing to watch an ad versus, all right, I'm going to also pay you money out of a debit card, credit card. At least with the ad, you have to be using it to be able to pay the fee. You're using it in real time. You're paying for the whole copy of the game, and then you're paying to be able to play it over the months. It's just it's a weird thing.
So selling, this is either going to destroy the gaming industry and it's going to just like screw everything up, or there will be such a revolt against this that the consumers put the kibosh on it. I don't see any other way. Yeah. There's no halfway implementation of this. You either go all in selling software as a service or you don't. And
what about,
feel like it's
what about progression? What about the progress that we've made just in computer hardware based on video games? Part of the reason that we have such powerful machines right now is because of video games. Video games have, but they haven't pushed the CPUs and the video cards. You know what I'm saying?
They push the internet.
They push the internet. But as far as hardware,
yeah, absolutely.
Video games have pushed hardware. The second you take that away, what's going to happen to the hardware market?
No, when you don't need to buy a 2080 Ti to play Cyberpunk 2077 at 120 FPS on a 1440p monitor, and you can use your $170 Google Chromebook. Yeah, I think Intel and AMD have a huge vested interest in keeping video games played on a local computer. Because then why the hell would you spend $2,000 on a machine when you can swing on over to Best Buy? Yeah, buy a $400 Asus laptop or $400 Acer laptop and call it a day.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the gaming industry's got a huge vested interest, and the hardware manufacturers have a huge vested interest.
I think there's a bigger underlying downside of it in the long run. We've seen so much progress and changes in our life due to the acceleration of computers.
Yeah.
And you're taking that out of the market. I think it'll affect our lives in other ways. But there's going to be less of there's still technology pushes in certain areas that are definitely going to happen. But I think that this, which has driven our economy, which has done so much to advance everything, is going to be taken away. And I think that that's one of the most important things that we've had up until this point, pushing our technology forward. So
we have technology.
Yes. And hopefully we keep it.
Yes.
All right.
Catch my SpongeBob reference there?
No,
You're old. I forgot about that. Sorry.
No, I love SpongeBob. I just don't.
There's an episode of SpongeBob where they have I believe it's when they accidentally spill. Thank you, Subdivisions, for the sub. They accidentally spill paint on Mr. Krabs' first $100 bill or $1 bill.
His dollar bill is like $1.
His dollar bill, and he goes, "We have technology," and he just smashes a computer on top of the dollar bill to fix it. That's kind of what could happen. You'd be like, "Oh, we have this $3,000 GPU, and now we're gonna go to games.google.com and stream the game in WebGL from our browser, and use our CPU is gonna be at 3%. Like, that's a huge issue."
I think we're right on the verge too with computers and there's been huge advances in like the video cards and CPUs just in the past year. I mean, you look at some of these CPUs that AMD is putting out. I was looking at like 128 cores or threads or whatever. Video cards. Yeah, they've got video cards that they're getting ready to release that are dwarfing those 2048s.
Yeah.
The technology is being pushed so far right now, and I think it's going to be is what would make it to where it kind of segues into this true VR, true immersion of you're being placed in an environment that feels so real. And then if you could just bring the hardware to bring those senses to you, right? What's the name of that movie where it's based on this whole concept of you're thrown into a virtual reality? Ready Player One. To get there, we have to maintain PC gaming to truly get there. If we start totally pulling away from that and going to this 100% online, everything streamed, you're taking a few steps back from that being a possibility, because they're not going to be able to stream those things live over the internet, for a while. It's going to take, now we're having to wait for infrastructure to catch up before we get to that point. And I feel like it's kind of a step back of, all right, we're on the cusp of something like Ready Player One, and like having an initial implementation of something, of being put into something like that. And it's like, oh, but let's take 10 steps back and let's make everything streamed. I think it's kind of a crazy, possibly negative concept.
Gamers rise up.
Yeah.
Let's put as I said with the loot boxes at the beginning, it's your neighbor that you're going to have to convince not to do this. It's going to be your fellow gamer that you're going to have to say, stop, do not buy this crap. Do not entice them to continue developing it. If we don't think it's a good thing, it might be a good thing. I don't know. I don't think that it's not, the cat's not out of the bag yet, Brian. We don't know. And this could end up being the most revolutionary thing. This could make gaming accessible for so many more people and make it may hurt the hardware.
It'll help the studios. Yeah.
Well, okay, and helping the studios helps us in some way or shape or form. So,
yeah,
who knows?
I mean, it could be.
That's what I'm saying.
It's all based on my Chromecast, which is kind of crazy. So hopefully it doesn't destroy everything and make the end of the world happen. I'll feel bad.
So this could all be Brian's fault.
It could be in the end. You could say, "Oh, thanks."
That's the most 4D chess move of destroying this podcast.
I ended up destroying the podcast by destroying gaming altogether with the Chromecast.
In what, 2000?
You're welcome.
2010.
This was like 2011 is when I pitched it to him.
Yeah.
I destroyed it all, and it only took me how many years? 9 years, 10 years to do it.
This is the long con approach.
Yeah, my goal is to destroy. I was like, how can I get out of this podcast?
That I haven't started yet.
Years here. That I haven't even started yet.
Yeah,
that's how future thinking I am.
I mean, hey, that's a big brain move right there.
Yeah, we got it.
All right. Well, let's see.
We've got off of our notes here.
Yeah, well, I think it's a good conversation.
Yep, it is. So let's just let's go through some of the quick. We'll just go kind of rapid fire some of these notes. Okay. First of all, Overwatch, they put out a patch. So they've updated some heroes like Bridget, Symmetra, Widowmaker, and Wrecking Ball. So if you're on those, mainly it's just increases and decreases in damage and armor, things like that, kind of balancing them out a little bit. Also, we have ROE, who's put out an update. This is part of their, I think, season 7. They enabled the heroic challenges for season 7. So if you were interested in doing that, that's for various, they have rewards that they're giving away for that. So if you go into the game, you can compete for those. Also, we have Wylands, which did a dev diary. This is one that we're going to have to do for a game of the week at some point and just kind of run around and have some. Yeah, it's free to play, so we can get everybody into this. But they're working on medieval and fantasy compositions, so adding in more assets and things to be able to make that kind of an environment. You can use in your own maps, those different things. And they also are in the exploration mode, which means they're being auto-generated if you do the explore mode. Yeah, it's a pretty decent game. And they also did a hot fix, which is just a number of fixes and things, and some tweaks. And then Raft, they put out an update, and this is where
I like Raft.
This is the one that Nick game. Actually, Nick got us all playing on this. This is their update number 11, and they've added beehives. So you can now produce honey on your raft. So they have a thing for doing that. They also have a sweep net, so you can sweep things from the ocean using a net. And then a couple fixes and things like that. So they have the beehive, the sweep net, the bee jar, the honeycomb, a healing salve, and then made it so you can obtain honey now. And the bee swarms are on Balboa and Balboa-like islands. So, and I think
propane and propane accessories.
Yes, propane and propane accessories.
Yeah, that's what I just heard from me. That's what I just heard come out of your mouth. Balboa-like islands. That's pretty funny.
I think that's pretty much it. I think it's our all the games up to this point.
All right. Before we start current players, we'll say again, game of the week is going to be Escape from Tarkov, and we'll be playing that Friday night. So, without further ado, Mr. Brian, I'm going to go ahead and start current players up here. Here we go. Let's take a look at the video games that people are currently playing, and let's start it off with King of the Kill, which we've been tracking as they had a pretty big player bump a couple weeks ago due to some streamers. Currently playing 593. That's slipped about 500 players since last week. The 24-hour peak, 1,819. That's holding pretty consistent. And the 7-day peak, it's not bad as well, 3,264. Let's take a look at Ark Survival Evolved. Currently playing 36,871. The 24-hour peak, 60,542. The 7-day, 79,644. Let's take a look at Rust. 39,534 people currently playing. The 24-hour peak, 59,661. With the 7-day peak, 82,207. 82,000 for the 7-day peak. I mean, Rust is just knocking it out of the freaking park. It's pretty incredible. Speaking of DayZ, it's got a solid player base. I think most of these people are playing on modded servers. Currently playing 12,802. The 24-hour peak, 25,972. With a 7-day peak of 40,683. And wrapping us up here is everybody's favorite, Atlas. Currently playing just shy of 3,500 players. The 24-hour peak, 4,892. With a 7-day peak of 6,423. Pretty cool stuff there. Nice to see a peak in DayZ. It was a free weekend, so that might explain why there was that jump was there. But man, Rust is just taking off like a freaking bottle rocket these past couple months.
Well, when it's stable, when it's generally stable, they listen to their player base and actually implement things that will be used. Right. Yep. This is the difference. H1Z1 listened to some of their player base, the Reddit version of their player base, and then they kept going back and forth because they implemented it and was like, oh no, that wasn't what we wanted. We wanted this instead. But I think here they have enough of Rust has enough of a they're in touch enough with their player base to kind of understand what they truly want.
Mhm.
And I don't think they're listening to Reddit to find out what that is. I think they're watching the actual players and seeing what they're doing. And, and plus they have that place where people can make things and put it on the market. They have ways to kind of see what direction things are going. So I think they've done a good job.
To be fair, it's kind of a two-way street. Because they have such a large player base, they can actually collect statistics to make an informed decision. The issue you have with some of these early access games, H1Z1, Miscreated, they don't have the largest player pool in the world. So 25, people on a game like Miscreated is actually a pretty large group of the player base. Yeah. So it's a lot harder to make it. And 25. I mean, we could get 25 people playing a game, and could we make a huge change in a game with our group? Probably. And some of these smaller games.
Well, you remember early on with Miscreated, we really did push. Like I was working with a number of the various streamers that really were just pushing hard for that game. And we were trying to get something going. And the difference, Miscreated didn't listen to their most important player base. Like they had streamers that were pushing it. We're like die hard. They realized, man, this is tough, but we want to see Miscreated survive. Miscreated didn't pay any attention to those people. And I was pretty disappointed in the end when I saw it.
There you go.
So disappointing. All right. Are we ready? Are we ready for tip of the week?
What's tip of the week?
Well, this is when I go through and either give a general gaming tip or one for a specific game. And I figured since we're playing some Escape from Tarkov, figured that'd be kind of a fun one to do for tip of the week.
No Chads allowed.
All right, so we've all been kind of playing Tarkov here pretty recently, and we got some various tips and strategies that people have suggested for, first of all, leveling up faster. One thing that you can do is if you inspect all the various items that you come across and that are in your inventory, that gives you XP each time. I think it's about 5 XP each. But what you can do also is go visit the vendors. They have various vendors that you can go visit, and you'll see items that you could purchase that have not been inspected yet, and that doesn't actually show you what they are. You can go through all those items and inspect them, and you get 5 XP for every single item. You can do that for a while, but then you'll notice, okay, well, I've inspected every single item in their inventory. But you can keep doing that by going to, I think they call him the Fence. He's the Fencer character. And he has kind of a circulating series of items in there. So if you keep visiting him every certain period of time, you'll have different and new items that you can inspect in his inventory. So that will really help. Another way, and this is actually suggested to me by Nick, that you can reclaim some space in your inventory is to right-click on weapons that have the foldable stock and fold the weapons. It usually will take about two squares of
2
space.
by 1. Yeah.
A 2 by 1 square space of room off of that gun and allow you to fit a few more items in there. If you have 3 or 4 of those, that actually can save you a whole gun space. So if you want to be able to squeeze a few more in there, make sure you fold all those items, and then hopefully we'll have some more tips. We'll see. Maybe we'll do another Escape from Tarkov, because I did have some other people that gave a few other suggestions, but that is your tip of the week.
All right, man, I'm jazzed up for that. I'll say this for the new players, and I believe you're still below the threshold. The game really doesn't start until you hit level 5. That's when
I'm on 4. That's why I've been inspecting everything, just because I'm close to getting to 5. So
the game really you really can start going through the game at level 5. That's when the flea market, which is the eBay of the game, you can sell and buy things, in real time to actual other players, and that's when the game really kind of gets going. So it's super important that if you're like level 3.5 or 4, you can go through and inspect all those items. That's what I did and got up to 5, and that really unlocked the potential of the game. So stick through it to level 5. If you get it and you're like, oh man, this is kind of stupid. Get to level 5 before you give it a final judgment.
Yeah. Very good. Yeah. And then I've got hockey tonight, so I can't go play, but looking forward to playing some more.
I got the show to upload and I can't do it either. So
yeah, we'll play more this week.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right. We ready for the game giveaway?
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's go ahead and close this and draw. And congratulations, Judd, a longtime follower of the show. Thank you very much. I will send you a link so you can redeem that game inside of the Discord. So congratulations.
Yes, sir.
All right. Is there anything else we need to do before we wrap this up?
No, just want to tell you that Tarkov again is the game of the week, and we will be back next Tuesday for another episode of Infectio Podcast.
Very cool. All right. Well, if you want to find me, you can find me at Boise Computer on Twitter. Of course, you want to check out my blog. That's biteoftech.com. Thank you, Governor, for the subscription. That's great. Oh, yeah. That's 4 months in a row. If you want to go and check out our website, infectionpodcast.com, you can go look on the right-hand side there, and you'll notice an icon that says join our server on Discord. If you want to participate in some of the Tarkov that we've been playing or play another game, we still have ARC servers going. You can go ahead and jump in and do that. And that's a free app. They have a free app for your phone, a desktop app. They've got a web-based app. Also a Steam group. If you want to get a notification for the live show, you just subscribe to that. Little pop-up will happen, and then you can participate in those game giveaways. You can participate in chat. If you would like to get maybe we talked about a video or showed a video on here and you were listening and you couldn't see it, then you can go ahead and jump on our show notes. This will be for episode 266. You can jump on there and we'll have all the different links that we referenced throughout the show available to you. If you want to support us financially, make sure you do that through humble.infectionpodcast.com or amazon.infectionpodcast.com. Or, of course, as you've heard here throughout the show, the Twitch Prime subs really make a difference for us, and we really appreciate each and every one of those. So that is it for me.
We appreciate everybody with their support through all those platforms. And as we've said 1,000 times, there's a million different ways to support the program. It does not have to be monetarily or with a sub or anything like that. Posting news in the Discord, letting us know of new games that are coming out. That is just as important for the future of this program as the Twitch sub is and some of the other things. So,
and even just participating when we're playing games. I mean, that's a huge part of this community.
Yes. So. Yeah. That's the other thing to note too, Brian. Like the goal, it's cool that we do the podcast and all, but we really started doing the podcast originally because we had to find a group of players to play H1Z1 with. That's kind of what we started in. And now it's morphed into. So now it's morphed into this thing. So that's our goal, is to keep our community active. And that's what we're doing here. That's what you can do on our Discord. Brian, thank you as always. We will see you Friday night for another episode. For Escape from Tarkov, Game of the Week, and we will see you next week for another episode of Infection. So thank you much as always, and we will see you next time. Alrighty, folks, you can follow me on Twitter at Nicholas M. Craig. We also have a Twitter for the show at InfectionCast. It's not super active, but if there's like a Steam deal or some crazy breaking news in the middle of the week, you can keep up to date with that. We won't spam you. All the links and everything that Brian mentioned are on our website. Check out the show on Spotify and other podcast platforms. It's cool that we're listed on there. And if you notice that we're not on a podcast app, please let us know. My name is Nick Craig. Again, you can check out my Twitter. It's at Nicholas M. Craig. You can check out our website. It's infectionpodcast.com. That's going to do it, everybody. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.